Street. And I haven't heard back from him, but I told him he could just let you guys know how much money there is allocated for that. But basically, I think we would like to, like I said, we identified 3 or 4 good locations where there's sort of, the little plaza areas that are not being used by restaurants for outside seating that would be perfect for art. And that was always his intent. And so I think that we would like to have a discussion about a process for that public art. And then as a second item, we did form a small group subcommittee to look into what we want to put on top of the water fountain, drinking fountain area, and maybe something on the walls. And so there's 2 representatives from the neighborhood association and 2 people from Main Street Board, 1 or 2 people that are just citizens that want to be involved. And so we're looking to see if there's somebody from this group who would like to be a representative on that group, just that you're interested in that. And you don't have to say it right now. If you could just email me, you all have my email address on this. Just email me and tell me if you're interested, and I'll pass that information on to the person who's going to chair that group, who is Kim Bria, actually, from our board. And so we're real excited to sort of get that going, and so that we do have a good group. And so if there's anyone from this group who would like to also join us on that, please just email me. So those are my 2 items for public comment.
Great. Thank you very much, Jody. Are you going to be our consistent liaison, do you know, or did the other gal get?
The other gal, unfortunately, has now taken on more work. And so she's teaching 2 evenings a week at Portland State and art. And she's teaching at Tigard, I don't know if it's high school or junior high, I think it's high school, 5 days a week. And so she said, until she's done with at least the college class that's on Tuesdays and Thursdays, that she will pass, just because she said she gets home late and she's exhausted. And so she will reassess that come January when her schedule lightens. I hope she can make it, because she's a great artist and lives here in the area, and it'd be wonderful if she can be the representative. But in the interim, you've got me.
We're happy to have you. No worries. Just want to make sure.
I was hoping that she was going to move into this role, but she definitely overcommitted herself, as we all do.
Sure. Makes sense. Okay, great. Well, thank you for the information about your walk around with Lance. And if anybody is interested, as Jody said, go ahead and let her know if you want to be on the planning committee for the fountain topper. Great. Let's see.
Just real quick. So the fact that you're putting together that suggests that there are now different plans for that fountain. And so that's more of a question for Doug, kind of what that process was of getting the message that we put together last time out to City Council, and what kind of came of all that.
I took the email that Lauren wrote and reached out to Kathy Molesky, who is the city recorder, and asked her what I needed to do. And she said, send it to me. So I did. And I'm assuming she forwarded it on, and I haven't heard anything. So the message has been passed on to the powers that be.
Right. So it's an anti-climate bill. There it is.
All right, I think there's no other public folks here. So let's see. Moving on to the approval of minutes from October. I do have those here. I looked them over. They looked good. There was one question here about spelling. of Shelley.
Oh, yes. Mhm.
I suppose it might also be a moot point since she's not actually
Yes.
doing it. Any edits or requests for changes to these notes? Right. If anybody wants to motion to pass them.
I move that we approve the minutes from the October 6th meeting.
Second,
I second.
anyone opposed?
Hey, Mel, I had sent you a couple of questions about the minutes. I'm having trouble pulling up my email for some reason.
Mhm.
But
Yeah, I got those and I made those changes in the minutes.
okay, awesome. Thanks.
About the Clackamas County art stuff, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yep. I just cut and pasted what you sent me. Simple enough to do.
Thanks.
Uh-huh.
Right. So any opposed to approving these minutes? Yes, no. Right. Minutes approved.
Chair Laura, can I go off something that I said on the last minute? I wanted to kind of follow up on. Last thing was about curating a show, the Arts and Culture Committee.
Sure, I have that actually as our only piece of new business. So,
Okay, all right. So August 2020 is open for you to curate. I'm sorry, August 2022. What am I saying? Golly, it's been a long day. 2022, August 2022 is the month that is set forward for arts and culture. I could have had it earlier, like as in January, but I chose for you, and you'll have to forgive me, to go to August so that you have plenty of time to plan and decide how you want to go about doing it. But the community room gallery will be available for you to curate as you wish. Mel and I can help with logistics pieces, and I wanted to set that date for you and put it in your mind.
that's great, Doug. Thank you. So can you maybe just talk to us a little bit about like sort of backing into that? Would it be that like how much lead time would you need on your end for us to make selections, or is that just something we'll all have to figure out?
I think it's really, I'd like to keep it open for all of you to decide how you want to do it. Usually people present to us for singular shows, sometimes a couple shows or two people, but if you want it to be a single show or a group show or your show of your own art, it's really, the canvas is wide open. I think the only restrictions that we would have, and when you call them restrictions, I call them limitations, are, hanging art is easy for us to deal with. And we do have some pedestals that are created for artwork to be presented. But we don't have covers for those, so they would be open. So I think the medium in which you want to work in, or you want to suggest that you want to curate around, I think basically just looking at the floor space and looking at the wall space to see that whatever you decide to do will fit within that area. And if we want to keep it, if we want to move, don't worry about the floor. We could do whatever we want there, but I'm just saying the walls and then the pedestals. That's kind of the way we have to look at it from a standpoint, or from how you would stage it. I'm sorry. Other than that, if you want to do a First Thursday event, if you want to do an artist reception event, how you want to go about your curatorial process of deciding what you want to do, I really would like it just to be your decisions, and we will support them. And hopefully it won't be a live chainsaws or something, but other than that, I don't think that there would be something that we would worry about too much.
Can I throw something in for that? What comes to my mind right away is like, if we want to create a show, maybe one option would be to find out what artists live in West Linn and present them with us together as a West Linn theme. so to speak, so that we figure out, or whoever knows a person or a group who is working and living in West Linn and is an artist, that they can maybe represent their one piece or whatever fits in that area, or how many artists we can find or who are willing to show with that group. Maybe that's an idea, but yeah, only to throw that out.
There's a couple artist databases out there. There's the group that Tammy Jo Wilson runs out of Oregon City called Art in Oregon. She maintains, or their organization maintains, an artist database. And also the Oregon Arts Commission maintains an artist database. They just started doing that, I think, over the summer. So I could reach out to both of those groups to see if there's any like data sharing rules that would prevent them from just like kicking us a list of all of the people they already have registered in West Linn.
Do we think this would fall under our process that we've outlined in our bylaws for curating public art? Because we did think through a process, and so Carrie is probably much more familiar with the actual nuts and bolts of it, but having a subgroup to do some things. And anyway, we do have a process, which I assume would apply to this.
Yeah, that's just the selection part. And so presumably we would need to do some kind of call. And so there would be like the marketing piece of, I'm guessing, like I would just think that we would put the word out there to be like, hello, West Linn artists, or whatever, however we want to scope who's eligible, to get people to submit different contributions to the show. And then assuming that we want to jury that selection, not just, it like kind of depends on the volume, I guess, of what we get. Then that's where those bylaws would come into play, because that's more of the, how do you make those choices in a way that is, I guess nothing's free from scrutiny around possible conflicts of interest, but hopefully freer of disputes around such things.
Okay, that's helpful to have that clarification.
I would make one small suggestion, and that is that you don't just eliminate the idea of using your own art, because in this situation, we're not acquiring the art. You're just displaying the art. Now, even if you want to sell the art, they do that too, right? But the city's not acquiring your art per se in this situation. So that conflict doesn't necessarily, I know people think, well, it'll be a conflict, but I think many of you are artists, and I think that's one of the reasons you want to be on the Arts and Culture Commission. This might be one of those ways in which you can showcase some of your own talents too, in a kind of in an open way that is not necessarily taking away from somebody else's opportunities, but also showing, hey, arts and culture folks actually create art too, and want to show that from an informational, for the community, because I think that it would be much more difficult, as we talked about conflict of interest, if you're wanting to be on this board and then creating art that the city would acquire for its permanent collection. That poses challenges, right? But in an art gallery and an art show, it's a little bit different. It's more for, I would hope, it's more for showcasing people's talents and what they're doing and interest and engaged conversation rather than acquisition per se.
Yeah, and if you guys get a lot of artists, you could do it. Each artist gets a week. Most of the artists that come in and present in the community room, it's for an entire month. So if you guys get a lot of artists, including your own art, then you guys could break it into somebody's art to be in there for a week, and then kind of do it as a rotation, so to speak, so that you'd have 4 weeks of all these different art in and out of the community room. So that's also an option. If you do send a call out and you get a lot of artists, that's an option as well.
And I think the other thing, and not to confuse it, but we could also, if it's based on, what kind of art it is, if it's easel, if something would sit on an easel, we could also do some of it into what we call a more traditional reading area. We could even put your folks' stuff there, and have a delineation or whatever, or extension of it. But it just, it really just depends on the medium that you want to work in, or you want to curate around. But I do think it's people are often asking, are there artists on the Arts and Culture Commission? They ask me that question all the time, and I say, yeah, there are. Well, what kind of art do they do? I said, well, hopefully someday we'll be able to show the art that they do, rather than me try to explain each of your mediums. But I think it is a question that comes up in the community, and I think it'd be nice to be able to show folks what you do, and in a kind of a in a way that's not going to cause a bunch of potential problems.
And we also, if there are delicate art pieces that we don't want just to sit out on a pedestal, Doug and I drove down to Salem several years ago and got these beautiful antique glass display cabinets that we could also use and even move out into the foyer there. So the artwork would be protected, but still be on display. So that's also, if it's jewelry or smaller pieces or ceramic that might get tipped over if it's just kind of left unattended in the community room. Those are also the ways to display the art. So those are also available to you.
And I think I can provide maybe an easel or two, because I have some of that. And then the other thing is, I like the idea of the rotation. Maybe we consider that anyway, because that drives more people in. Instead of 4 weeks, we can say we break it up in two weeks or something like that. So we can always have another reception or another invite or another for the public. And that makes maybe also drives more, how do you say that?
Interest?
No, people come in. So
Interest.
yeah. So that would be also an idea, and gives us more in the people see what we do, and back in their minds, oh, there is that group that is from West Linn and is the Art and Culture Commission, and they do this and that, and so we can get us back into minds of people if we rotate.
We may just have to wait and see what stuff gets submitted, and then I'm sure there'll be a natural delineation of how we can organize it. If we get a lot of multiple different categories of art, we may think about doing multiple weeks that are slightly different theme too, depending on the art that we receive as well.
We'll just want to keep the actual hanging of and then de-hanging of the show in mind too, because I know that can be a big job, and that might be tough to cycle through too frequently within the month.
I'm willing to help with that, because I did that quite a time before. So, but yeah, with the hanging or so, that is okay with me when it's necessary, or yeah.
I'm also thinking that because it's August, there will not be school in session, so I can connect us with the art teachers at the high school, which is right up the hill there. And I'm sure they have easels that we could borrow, especially since it's the summertime. And then I have, on the same note, just thinking of my day today at the high school, tech question for Doug and Mel at the library. I have students who are creating digital art, like little animations, and they post them on social media, and they're actually like getting sold. Yeah, and so I don't know if there'd be a way to display digital art that's moving, like I don't know what even that would entail, but that could be a category of submission, as Andrew said, especially if we get some younger, well, not that they don't have to be young to do animation, but the one that I talked to today, she showed me on her phone this thing that she'd done. It was super cool. And I thought, well, that'd be a great thing to show if we had the tech ability.
Yeah, like a slideshow or something, that would be great. So on a screen, I mean, there's a little screen, or there's a possibility of having a screen in that room, right? So that we have a slideshow going with maybe stuff like that.
We did that one time with, we've done that where we've created them. We've used the big screen as on a loop with multimedia. We also did it with recordings. There was one, we did a show of, it's been 2 or 3 years ago now, of recordings of a parent with Alzheimer's across in their writings and their art through the time all the way to their passing. So it was a really powerful piece, and there was a digital component. So yeah, if we can, obviously create a slide deck in a very simplistic form to do it, but we can also do some other things too and just put it on a loop, and it can always be going during
Yeah,
that.
we could probably even use the Mondo pad for that, wouldn't you
Yeah, we
think,
can
Doug?
use Monopan too, yeah.
And that you can wheel that around, so that wouldn't necessarily have to be in the community room. It could be out in, the fireplace room or in the middle of the library, or right there in the foyer or in the lobby, right when you walk inside, so that it's visible. So yeah, that would be great.
Depending on what type of format they're in, there's a number of different ways we could display stuff. I design museum exhibits, and if we had a bunch of stuff and really wanted to make a nice display of it, I'd be able to help you do that as well.
I don't know if it's also an idea to make a little catalog. Like usually you have the artist statements in the room or so, but if we have maybe a little catalog of the artwork that will be presented in the 4 weeks, and if we have rotations, that it's still completely in one catalog and one, whatever possibilities we have, that would be maybe also an option. But I don't know, financing would be possible for that, or how we could create something like that. And even if people want to have it, that they can maybe get that online or so.
It's pretty
Yeah.
easy to make like a digital catalog. Yeah, sorry, Carrie.
Okay.
I was just, maybe saying the same thing. That like making an online digital magazine type thing, it's fairly straightforward. There's a lot of semi-easy ways to do it. So, well, I love obviously so many ideas just right off the bat. Do we want to try and put some parameters on an idea now? Do we want to think about it and try and vote on a concept at least next month? Or how are people feeling about the local artists? Because I feel like we'll have to put parameters around what does local actually mean. And then, whether or not we just say, do you make stuff in West Linn? Show it at the library, or, obviously we'll have to refine sort of what the call looks like. But do you guys have any other ideas, or do we want to keep discuss next month? How do you feel?
So we have two kind of things that we're dealing with. We need to identify artists, and then we need to show work. And so maybe this is a broader discussion of, should we be creating a list of West Linn artists that we have that we can display? And I think that in itself is going to be helpful, because then once we have that, then we can also contact them directly and request that they submit. And then we can also help funnel people who are interested in their art towards them to help working artists.
I mean, it would be helpful if what Carrie said, that there might be lists already somewhere in other institutions, sort of, that we can draw on. And so there are two ways. So when we know someone, I mean, I know a few people here in West Linn, but maybe they're also on that list, so that we get both as a spreadsheet together, and then go from there, maybe next meeting or in general, when we know how many artists we actually can find, or if we then go through the West Linn website and call for art or artists that we maybe miss through all that.
Yeah, some of these lists can be a little exclusive. For instance, the Oregon Art Register, that the big one, that one I've applied to twice, and I've been denied to be on it. But I've been working on.
Summer?
Sorry, what?
Was that the one that they started pulling together just this summer?
No, this is with the Oregon Art Commission.
This might be something different. They're just trying to compile a database of artists.
Yeah, but Oregon Art Commission specifically is very, very picky about who they choose, and they choose a very limited amount of artists. And and part of that is because their roster is dependent on calls, and so they try and take their calls for artists and then funnel them to those artists on the roster. And so they try and give people a fighting chance by making a smaller roster. And so I think we would want ideally a more exhaustive list of artists in West Linn specifically.
I think they might have Or maybe they're running two different lists, but I know I signed up for one in like August or September. There was no.
That's not
no
a list I'm
barrier.
aware of, so I don't know.
I just had to be like, I am an artist. I can type my name. So it might be a different thing than like it seemed like it was for a different purpose. But I'm happy to reach out to them at least to see if they're even able to share the data. And same with artists in Oregon. I mean, I don't know if it's their data, so they might not be comfortable sharing with it for whatever reason, but we can at least start there. But yeah, I don't think that should be our exclusive approach either. I think it would be nice if we could do a targeted approach to people who we know exist, partially just because it helps ensure like signal to noise ratio, but also I think it makes for kind of a nice, because we haven't really had any sort of unveiling that our commission exists. And so it would be nice to send a targeted mailing to artists in Westland to be like, hey, we exist. We're doing something.
Should we formulate an email for that or more a letter? What do you think, Carrie?
Well, I mean, the call, like doing a targeted call via an email list to known entities would help serve that purpose. But then I think it would also be good to do a more public call as well, to your
Right.
point, Andrew, that not everyone might be on like these formalized lists. And so we shouldn't just rely on that either.
But I mean, when I know someone, how should I go forward with that? Should we formulate an email that goes then always the same to people we know? Or should I say, hey, you know what, I'm at the commission, what do you think? It's not set and done yet, or not set in stone yet, but in August we will have a show. So what do you think? Or should we go more cohesive that everybody who knows someone will contact that person or so? And then I guess we might get a list through Clackamas County Art Alliance, because they require people should live in Clackamas County to show, and they should know a lot of people who, or they should know the people who live in which city or area.
When I asked them before if we could get information on Westland artists, they were like, "Oh, do you have that list? We don't know where that list is." I think that's something that they used to maintain, but you know, they had like a complete turnover with all of their staff. So I think that's something that they would like to have too.
I'm on the Clackamas Art Alliance board as well, and so I can talk to them about that as well.
And I would also just add, I mean, not necessarily for the library, because that feels very hyper-local, but like for my conversations with the Lake Oswego Arts Council, they're much more broad in their calls, where it's, if you're connected to the Pacific Northwest, if you're, long time ago from the area, if you're international, I mean, they don't put up quite as many geographic boundaries, and obviously they have a different thing going on for the most part, particularly in regard to something like this. But like, I was just thinking like, well, what if you grew up in Westland and you don't still live here, but you're an artist? Like, does that count? So that's where I start getting like my sideboards start to fall off a little bit. But I do think I like the idea of a consistent message that maybe we can craft, that's just like, if you have a buddy who's an artist, that you can send them an email and say, click this link, and it's just a Google form or something. And so they start kind of populating into a spreadsheet, our favorite. And that we can start collecting that at least. But yeah, I just like, I don't want to exclude anybody just by virtue of not being within the 97068 zip code is my.
The call will help us get that data too. Sorry, Doug, go ahead.
Yeah, I think that it's important that you at least do a call for artists through, I mean, you can have all these targeted things too, but I think since this is your initial one, going through our traditional mediums of getting information out would be important too, because there's going to be a lot of people that, having done this in a different realm with writers and poets across the state in my past life, there are a lot of people that come out of the woodwork that you never even knew, and they're actually really good. And the only way they knew about it was from the call that they read in the in the water bill, or they saw on social media. So I think we would be doing a disservice to our own community that we don't necessarily even know about at this point, as well as not exclusively, but as part of the bigger ask to the broader place. And I think that, you might on these first couple ones want to, if you have a robust and rich collection that you're curating from, to maybe focus a little bit on the folks in West Linn. I think I think the community is, I'm hearing from the community. Maybe Mary can jump in on this, but I think they like to see people from our community, at least initially, be kind of showcased, as well as yourselves.
I haven't particularly heard about this, but I haven't, I have a kind of a limited ability to get out in the public, unfortunately. But I will definitely make it a point to, I could even go to some neighborhood association meetings, or maybe we could put the word out through the NAP, neighborhood association presidents, and just kind of start. What about even posting on the library's website some kind of?
Oh yeah, for sure. I would suggest we do all those things, including all of
For
our
sure.
media outlets that we have at the city and at the library and parks and all the rest of them, because we all have our individuals and we have our collected ones too. And I think Dylan can help coordinate that, and we can make that happen very easily.
Yeah.
My concern, my question was really, do you think we should also be including a call inside our own community, as well as the targeted ones that we know in this area, potentially in our community or outside of our community?
I think we should definitely do a more kind of outbound push of, hey, artists. And, that's how we can start to build that database too. We can start to look at existing sources, but then if you offer to hang up artists' work for free, then I think you will start to create a database of artists who are replying to that.
Yeah, I was thinking a little bit to Andrew's point earlier. It's one thing to have the artists who who you're asking. So I guess because I am not an artist who submit stuff, so you guys will have to educate me a little bit. Can we do a pre-call where it's hey, are you an artist in West Linn who may want to be considered for future projects or shows in the local area? Sign up or give us your information. Can you do that? Or is it really much more typically tied to, there's going to be a show at the library in August. Would you like your stuff hung up there? Apply now. Can you do just tell us who you are?
I think we can do anything we want, really. But I think to that point, I think it makes sense to kind of tier it a little and say, look, we're creating a database of artists in West Linn in this area. And one of the reasons for this database is so we can invite you to be a part of future shows. And, when we have the details of the show in August squared away, then we can start advertising to the people directly who have already signed up. And then again, to other people who haven't yet.
I like the idea to make it first that call for becoming artists interested in getting a database for us. And I think that sounds good for them. If they know now there's in West Linn a database where they can maybe show their art later on, or when we really have the chance to have a market, maybe an art fair, whatever. So they know, oh yeah, there's another opportunity. And then when we know who signed up, that we really can go forward with more of a detailed, hey, in August, we have a show. Are you interested in? Would you like to show with us? Or would you like to be a part of that?
Do you remember before the pandemic, we were going to put together a brochure that was going to be part of our presence at some event at the
McLean House.
Yeah, that was a lot of what that, we had a little tear off thing on the back of the flyer where you could be yes, keep me informed about art events. I am a purveyor of the arts in West Linn, and I would like to be informed of events. I am an artist, and I would like to be informed of events before that. So so that's kind of getting back at that. Maybe we're basically saying, sign up for our email list and tell us what type of information you're interested in. And we might even be able to work with Shane or somebody to get something like that right on our website, so that when people do stumble upon it, and then we can also promote it, of course, but if people are just looking us up on the city website, they could also have the opportunity to sign up for more information.
It would be great if we, yeah, I mean, again, I think in terms of Google, so like just a simple Google form with exactly those things that you would get if you were going to in-person events. Here's my name, here's my email, here's who I am in relation to the art community. We just start filtering through that stuff. I mean, there's plenty of outlets from the library to Facebook to the city website to city emails where you could at least start doing something, which would be fun.
The other thing that we need to consider is that between now and August, we'll likely have other ideas of things that we'll need artists to participate in. And so as we generate this list, inevitably there will be more opportunities to contact artists about projects.
Yeah, there we come back to that fountain. Maybe we found in that way also someone who wants to participate in the future projects. We heard about that there are more spots where can art be displayed. So maybe that's also a good way to find out who would be interested in doing something like that.
I also wanted to say that I'm committed if you want to, it's only if you want to doing this at least once a year. So this wouldn't be a one and done show. You would have one at least once a year. It could be it's going to be August 2022 this next time. It could be August 2023. It can always be in August. It could be a different month. But I'm committed to providing that resource for the Arts and Culture Commission if they choose to want to have it as a curatorial opportunity at least once every year.
Really nice, Doug. Thank you. Very generous. Okay, I have a lot of notes over here. So I feel like there's two things. So I'm happy to set up a Google form and draft some language. Maybe, and then I can put that together. I can commit to trying to get in touch with Shane and seeing how that jives with city stuff, and present some options to you guys in December for starting to collect a list. I don't know. Do we need to vote on that? Can I just do that? I think I could just do that.
I know it's not exactly hard to make a Google form, but you might even want to just keep it just the actual list of questions for now, because I suspect, especially if it gets directly added on to the city website, that we won't be able to put a Google form. Like I suspect we won't be able to embed a Google form in the site, because the city is not a Google shop. And so it'll probably just be a more traditional web form, but a form question is a form question is a form question. So
yeah, I could at least make an example, or just there's not that much to it. I think from what we've talked about, at least for the hey, we're creating a database.
Can you make first a form like we did or you did for the arts that we found in West Linn? So the art pieces that we do that only for us, that we can add all these people we maybe know of, so that we have an idea how many artists we personally, or not personally, but we know of in West Linn, and then go from there. But that would be more a list as a collection, and then maybe do the more public or open calls or whatever then comes to mind. Is that an option?
Why don't, if you guys have people that you know and artists that you know and your information, if you guys all funnel that to me, I will create a spreadsheet and then I can save it on the P drive, and that's part of the minutes that I take or a discussion that we have, and I can present that at the December meeting. If you guys can get those to me, before Thanksgiving, 3 weeks, I could put a database together. I'm taking some time off over Thanksgiving, and since our meetings fall right after that, I can have a spreadsheet for you guys. And then what we can do, depending upon what Shane says with the website, you can merge those two together. And then you'll always have a database that's on the city, what we call the P drive, which is where all the minutes, the agendas, everything that we do, the audio, all of that stuff that Doug and I record for the city, it'll all be in one place, if that makes sense.
would it be frowned upon to do that in Google Sheets, since that allows us to, because that way you don't have to be the in-between maintaining it all, then we could all edit it on the fly.
I don't think Shana let us do a Google Doc on the P drive for public
Yeah,
Well,
record.
it wouldn't
on the
be-
pen drive, but you certainly could do it on the Dropbox that he sent. You could put a Google form up in your Dropbox that he set up for you, and you could do it that way too.
It would just be a regular spreadsheet that gets updated. It would be a little different.
Mhm.
I have one quick question about, and again, because I'm not an artist, and so this may be a silly question, but I feel like there should be some form of opt-in instead of, thank you, Nancy. Just like, hey, I know an artist, let's put them on. I don't know. I feel like there should be some form of opt-in to it. Does that feel right to people, or do you think you would be happy if somebody gave your name to somebody to put on a list?
I was only thinking about to give you the names or the information I have and give that to Mel, but not without, so not already contacting that person, only that we collect who knows who. Is that an option, right?
Yeah,
Yes,
I was
but
just saying, if you have an artist friend that you know that would be interested in it, and you know that they would want their name on this list, or you discuss with them and said, would you like me to add your name to the list? That's what I'm not talking about just randomly putting people's names on a list. That was
more my idea, to get all these names first, that maybe 3 people know the same person before we contact them. Because if we really want to contact them, then it's my question I had before, should we have kind of a letter or an email that is for everybody the same, to say, hey, you know what, because it's not always an artist friend, but I know some people who live in West Linn, so that we maybe make first a cohesive letter or email that we can send out to these people. Hey, you know what, I know you, or you know me, but are you interested in to get to that list? So, but for me, it was like creating a list from all the artists we know, and then maybe write to them, because maybe there were overlaps from all of us.
Yeah, I feel like that's a more informal list, right? Like that allows us to send out a message that says, hey, guess what? We're putting together an email list. Here's the link to sign up. So to your point, Lauren, it's an opting in. But then, Beat, to your point, if we all know the same person, they aren't receiving 5 outbound messages being like, you should sign up for our new list. Like we can limit that a little bit.
And I think the messages, I mean, they might see the same message on the Facebook page for the West Linn Open Forum as for the West Linn City page. So I'm not too worried about one person getting.
Well, it's more
sign up for a list.
Email's different though, right? Like if you received the same boilerplate.
That's why I don't. Yeah, that's fine. We can do a list. Send your stuff to Mel. Jody, you've had your hand up for a while. I'm sorry I've missed it.
Well, a couple thoughts. I think one has already passed, but basically, I know there's a lot of artists, because when we used to have art festivals, we had a lot of local artists in the past. So there's a lot of folks out there that you probably don't know about. But I think one avenue that I will offer up is, if you do have your some kind of a handout, brochure, whatever, we can certainly have it at the Main Street information booth, both because we have a holiday market that happens the weekend that is the parade, and there's lots of people who come through. Some of those are artists that are trying to sell their things at the holiday market. Some of them are artists that live in the area. Not everybody does social media. So basically, you certainly, if you have something, we could have it at our information booth at the holiday market. And then come summer, we also have the farmers market, and same thing, we can have something there, because a lot of folks come through, and there are artists that do have things there displayed, and we get inquiries. So if you have something that you want us to put out, either physically at the markets or on the web, we're also willing to do that.
That's very generous. Thank you, Jody. We have like a half a thing that's not quite ready. We had a whole plan, and then there was a pandemic. Things went a little sideways with our brochure, but Again, I think if we just sort of went with something simple, that was the West Linn Arts and Culture Commission is collecting information on local artists in order to be able to curate future shows and or other presentation opportunities. Sign up on our list. Here's the link, or here's where you go, or here's who you email. That hopefully maybe we could put that together. When is the holiday market?
Let's see. It's Saturday, I think it's the 11th of December. I'll look real quick. It's usually the first week in December, but I think it's actually the second week this time. Yes, the 11th of December.
Okay, so then if we could get something together, we could vote to approve it at our next meeting on like the 1st, December 1st is our next meeting.
There's also the, 'cause at first I thought you were talking about a different event, but I think they're two separate events. There's also the Holiday Bazaar that happens the weekend prior to that, I think. I think it's at the Community Center, and that also
Yes.
supports artisans. So if we could even get a flyer out by then we might be able to talk the folks that run that into having a little stack available as well.
Yeah, they have that event. I think it is the weekend before. And those are both good venues because people are coming and looking for art type objects to give as gifts. And you get a lot of folks, one, who are interested, but you do get artists that are coming through wanting to see what's being done.
I'd be happy to take a stab at a little flyer that we could.
Can we also do like a sign up sheet? What you have usually, like, please sign in for our email list or something, that we say, sign up if you are interested in to get as an artist more information, or are you an artist? Please sign up. What's your medium? And they have kind of a possibility to say, yeah, that's my medium, that's my email, or maybe website or a phone number, or how they want to be contacted. So only on a clipboard or something.
Lauren,
Well,
that
we
would
have
be a
all
good
that-
idea for you. That would be a good place to get onto a Google Doc. And then you guys can filter through it and see if there's multiple, duplicates.
Yeah, I feel like, I unless one of you is going to the Holiday Bazaar, I don't know if there would be a great place there to have a clipboard. It seems maybe like Jody's booth might be a place to have one, since there's an actual person who's connected to us there, but maybe somebody has a better idea.
Well, I just meant we could put like a stack of flyers that said, hey, want to sign up for an email list and stay informed about artistic events happening in West Linn? Go to this URL. Or
I think
like,
the flyers is super easy, but Beata's idea to have an actual sign up sheet at a place it's just, you need somebody to be there and to manage the list. Anyway.
I think it would be important to have some distinctions in general email collection as well, so that we can know if someone is specifically an artist and they'd like to be notified of artist events, or someone is just a patron or lover of the arts and would like general multi-use emails as well, so that we can make sure that we're actually creating additional resources for artists. So if we're creating a group of artists that we know of, we want to create people who like the arts so we can kind of bring them together a little bit.
I agree. I think for sure to delineate, are you an artist or are you a lover of the arts and a patron and all of that stuff? And certainly you can be both, but if you are one, you should certainly let us know that. Okay, cool. Well, then I will work on sort of discussing with Shane how we might be able to build a form in the West Linn world. Carrie will do a draft flyer for us. And then I think from there we can keep talking about the show at the library next month and see if we want to refine the idea about if it's just local artists or if we want to put any further sideboards on that. And maybe we can bump that to January too, depending on how people are feeling. But does that sound good to everybody? Have more stuff to approve next month? Cool. All right. Are there any additional board comments or anything anybody would like to share about stuff that's going on?
So on the weekend is Sitka's show, art show, invitational in the World Forestry Center. That's what I know. And then there was something else. But yeah, that's for sure over the weekend. So I guess Saturday and Sunday, or Friday and Saturday from 10 to 4 or something. So yeah, that's in the World Forestry Center. And maybe you have a chance to go.
And there's not one, not two, but 3 new galleries open in Lake Oswego. There's the seasonal Rain Spark Gallery that's going to be in the old Sur La Table space through Christmas Eve. And the Lawrence Gallery just relocated from McMinnville to, you guys have probably seen it, it's right there off 43. And the Perfect Piece is a new gallery that opened. I haven't been over there, so I don't know exactly where it is, but somewhere near where whatchamacallit, the grocery store that went out of business on McVeigh, in that shopping center, I think.
Zupans.
In the category of performing arts, Westland High School's production of The Pirates of Penzance opens next weekend, the 12th, and runs for 2 weekends. And they're setting it, from what I heard, they're setting it in 1950s, like surfer beach setting. And so it'll be fun, family-friendly musical.
Where does that take place? Is that at Westland High School, or
Yep.
is that?
It's in the Performing Arts Center there at the high school, which is beautiful. It's a beautiful facility. So you can buy tickets online or at the door.
That's fun.
Yeah, it's fun.
Okay. Anything else that anybody knows about?
I saw something just yesterday at OMSI, if anyone may or may not already know about this, the Leica exhibit. It's really cool. And they just extended through February 13th. So I wasn't there to see it, so I'm gonna have to go back, but it was really cool what I saw.
That's fun. Is that their special exhibit right now? Or is it?
Well, it's interesting because they're starting a Nelson Mandela exhibit. I thought it was their featured exhibit. So this one is overlapping because it's being extended. So I'm actually not sure how they kind of bill that. So it's double bill.